Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back, my friends, to my YouTube channel, Abdelaziz Gabr. Today, inshallah, we will talk about very important topic in workover. Actually, this is the difference in workover between the new well and the old well in dealing with well control, in dealing with workover. Actually, dealing with a new well is the same like dealing with a new house, and old well is the same for old house. Okay, if you bought a new house, you have a new house, okay, and you need to make some repair for it. Actually, you will put the cement, you will make painting, you will make everything as you need, okay, because it's new. But it's if it is old and it's from long time, you have to check about the sewage condition, about the water, about the condition of the cement, the ceiling, about everything for it. This is the same for the difference between new well and old well as well. Okay, so in case you are dealing with a new well, which means you have drilled this well now with a drilling rig, and this rig is released and another workover rig comes to make the workover job, or to perform the workover job, because of the cost. Yani we don't need high cost, so we can't use the drilling rig, by the way. So here is a new well. You have the first this is the first workover is done actually after finishing the drilling. So all your data should be taken from the drilling department directly. You should check about the cement job, you have pumped the plug or not, about how much cement has been pumped, and about the if you have any cement return or not, because depending on this you can take decision to make squeeze cement or not, by the way. Okay, this is number one. Number two, the well is dead with the kill fluid. The well is dead with the kill fluid because you have already pumped the plug, and not only by the fluid, but also it's killed also by the casing. It's dead also by the casing and cement that you have already performed for the last cement job in the well. Okay, so here wellhead is new, so there is no problem about the wellhead. It's a new well head, so you don't have any leak. By the way, you don't have here any leak from gaskets, from ring gaskets, from rubber element, from fittings, from anything, because the wellhead is new, so you don't have any surprise here. Casing is new, which means its ID is full ID. The completion also that will be run also is new. So everything is new. So you can take the data directly from the reference and take it without any issue. Okay. Top of liner is polished. Sometimes the top of liner is polished. Why? Because there is no scale above it. You have already finished the job and make the cement for the liner. You finish the cement liner job, and then after finishing the cement liner job, this and all the excess cement is bumped out. So now you make polish and dress for the top of liner, which is very important to do this job. So it's here polished, but if it is in the old well, you may have obstruction on the top of liner, you may have scales on the top of liner, you may have any issue in the top of liner, so you have to take or consider this into account. Okay, but in old well you are dealing the same like it's old house, as I told you. So you have here many difficulties you could face, and these difficulties that we will here mention, it doesn't mean that is all. No, this is some of the difficulties that I have mentioned, but you may have other difficulties, and you have to put in your mind that each well is case by case, has its unique case. Okay, so no two wells are twins, and there is no twins in the wells, by the way. Okay, Okay, so you have many difficulties, like number one, dealing with a live well. Number one, you are dealing here with live well, which means you have hydrocarbons, you have gases, you have live well. So in dealing with any issue in this well, you have to be sure 100% that the well is secured. With the minimum requirement of barriers, يعني 2 for oil well and 3 for gas well, by the way. So this is very important. In case you need to make nibble down Christmas tree and nibble up BOB, you have to consider it. In case you need to make any job for wellhead, for any issue, you have to consider changing for wellhead, for example, or any issue. You have to consider the minimum barrier requirement. Why we don't? Because we don't need any H2S release or any hydrocarbon release on the surface, because this is very hazard on the environment and on the health and safety also. Number two, you are dealing with toxic corrosive gases like H2S, which is very, very critical, and you have to put into consideration in dealing with old well that that the camp, for example, should be at least from 100 meter 100 ppm reading at least, يعني, okay. So this is very important to put into consideration. Number three, the Christmas valves may be stuck. يعني sometimes you may need to make any workover job, so you have to kill the well. Okay, but the Christmas tree is stuck closed, for example. So what you will do? It's closed, it's stuck closed, so you can't open. So you have to plan to make a job for it, yeah, by milling, for example, or make a freezing ice plug or something like this. So you have to put into consideration all these problems that may face you. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, you will first make and try to make injection for for grease or so on, but in case you couldn't open it, you have to mill it by using cold tube or so on, and we will talk about all this in dealing with the old well. By the way, we will have here two scopes in this course, one full scope for new well and one full scope for old well as well. Okay. Scales in the Christmas tree. You may have scales in the Christmas tree itself. This means you can open the gate valves, but you have scales, so you cannot run in hole with slack line tools or electric line tools. So it's very hard for you to do any job. So during this, you have to deal with this situation by also come with cold tube, pump acid, or make يعني cleaning for this scale, by the way. Okay. Wellhead problems. You may have some wellhead problems. These are also very important. Wellhead problems here, like for example, gasket leaks. Sometimes you may have from the drilling that the casing slips, is leaking. So you have to plan to put double stud, double back off over it. Okay, so this is very important in dealing with wellhead problems. Okay, so this is number of the problem. You may have TCA, or tubing casing annulus may have a problem in the pressure. This pressure is an indication about integrity of the hole. It could be the bucker leak, the seal has leak, the tubing itself is leaking, or even the casing is leaking, or corrosive makes it leaking, for example, and this is a big problem for you. So you may have TCA, have pressure, and if you have TCA or there is no integrity in the TCA actually, or the pressure in the TCA exists, so this means you have to get rid of this pressure at first, and sometimes it reaches to you can shut in the reservoir or isolate the reservoir by, for example, running hole with through tubing bridge plug or something like this. Okay. Casing and tubing corrosion. You may face casing and tubing corrosion. This is very critical. Why? Because casing corrosion, it can lead to a lot of problems. For example, in case you have corrosion in this area, you can't make milling in this interval. For example, you can't make milling in this, so you have to change the plan, by the way. Other issue in the casing corrosion, it could you could have some leak, or could have leak in the from the casing because of the corrosion. Sometimes also, if you have casing corrosion, you may need a scab liner job, for example, which costs a lot of money, by the way. And if you have tubing corrosion, it's also critical job. Why? Because you sometimes you can't make decompletion for the tubing. For example, if you need to pull out of hole, the value that you can, or the overpull that you can apply for the tubing, actually it is not in the reference. It could be 70% or 80%. Yani. So and also sometimes if it is corroded or totally corroded, it will be very hard to fish it and mill it, and it will be a lot of junk in the hole. So we have to consider this and put into our account that the old well you have a lot of tubing corrosion and casing corrosion also. Okay, sometimes in the old well you may have tubing hanger stuck in the tubing head spool. Tubing hanger could stuck in the tubing head spool. So what you will do if you try to pull out of hole and find the tubing hanger stuck in the tubing head spool, you have to handle spear and running hole, so you can apply jarring on the surface, which is very critical operation to do if you have a tubing stuck in the tubing head spool. Also sometimes you may have the lockdown screw, it's stuck also in the tubing head spool, so you can't even get the tubing hanger out, and you have to mill it or do the needful for it. Okay, you may have some leak under the cellar. This is very critical job. Why? Because this hydrocarbons that are released from under the cellar, actually it's very hazard for the environment and for the health and for all of this. So you may have this, and actually if you have leak under the cellar, you have to be very careful while dealing with the with it. You may have freezing plug until you run in hole to isolate the reservoir, by the way. You may have low injectivity for bull heading. Low injectivity, which means you will start to make bull heading to enforce the hydrocarbons to go again to the base zone, but this has low injectivity, so you will handle to pump acid or through cold tubing just to enhance the injectivity. And sometimes if you can't handle this, you have to punch the tubing above the bucker and circulate with high mud weight to be sure that the well is killed without any issue, by the way. Scales, you may find scales in the casing and tubing, and this is very bad situation and very critical situation. If you have scales in the casing, you may start to pull out of hole after releasing the bucker, but the bucker is stuck, and this is metal to metal stuck due to the scales in the casing. So it will be hard situation at this time. You have to run in hole and cut tubing, for example, above the bucker, then start milling around the bucker slips until you get it out, and so on. So these scenarios, all these scenarios we will talk by the way, and during our course we will talk about all these scenarios, but you have to put into consideration that old well is the same like old house. It will cost a lot of money to repair it. Okay, and also you may find tubing scales, so you can't do any job with the wire line or with the electric line or any stick line or so on. Okay, it needs to read the well history very well. Yes, this is very important, because you will check here for the last workover, and also for the drilling program, to check if you have bumped the plug or not, if you have return of cement or not, because all this will affect the integrity of the hole. And you have to check also for the last workover they have done, they have any obstruction at any at depths يعني at a defined depths for example, or they didn't have obstruction, they have any issue about wellhead or any of these issues, يعني you have to check for the well history very well to be sure of what you are doing in this well. You may have free pipe. What is the meaning by free pipe? Free pipe means you no cement behind the casing. This free pipe is very critical because you can't make milling in this interval, you can't make perforation in this interval, and you can't do anything, and you have to plan to make squeezing job or squeeze cement job to cover this free pipe interval, by the way. Dealing with production lines and facilities. Actually, in the normal or in the new well, okay, you have already finished the well, drilling the well, and you will call the production, so they will fabricate their production line depending on the current situation. But in case of old well, you have already production line with its dimensions and its elevations, so you have to put into consideration that once you take the well, you will hand over to the production with the same elevation, with the same production line, with the same everything. So this is very important in the because you are dealing with production facilities and production line. Here you have also limited overpull for decompletion. Yes, because due to completion you have oil and gas, and these are corrosive materials. So this corrosive material affects very badly on the tubing. So sometimes you can't apply the full capacity of the overpull for the tubing. You can't apply its full strength, by the way. So here it's limited overpull. It could be 70% or 80 depending on the situation, or maybe less than this in case you have corrosion cases, by the way. Thank you very much for this lesson today. Tomorrow inshallah we will get another lesson about the workover. It could be the new well. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.